Today's episode, I will be talking about the first two episodes of Star Wars The Acolyte. So let's jump right into The Acolyte.
Do something, man. People are questioning you. Shut up. Shut up.
Okay, yep, do that. Sure, guys. Stupid and dumb. Just an idiot. Get your shit together, son. Fuck it. I loved it. Welcome to the Dub Cast. Star Wars The Acolyte is the newest Star Wars show on Disney Plus. The first two episodes dropped on the 4th of June, which was last night for when I'm first recording this podcast. So, coming into this series, a lot of the Star Wars series have been pretty hit or miss for me. I loved Andor. That was 2 years ago at this point. I loved Mandalorian. Watched that a little late, but still got the point of it. Book of Boba Fett was garbage. Basically had to become like Mando season 2.5 to be decent. Ahsoka was fine. Nothing really noticeable or rememberable at this moment that's popping in my head. So kind of these hit or miss Star Wars series. They're always big production though, so I want to get into stay a true Star Wars fan. Recently finished watching Star Wars Rebels, finished watching the Clone Wars animated series, whatever, you know what I'm talking about. So have watched all the movies, watching all these shows, I'm gonna try and keep up with the lore, just like Marvel. Even though the quality has declined, no matter what they put out, I'm still gonna watch it. Still gonna review it here with you guys in the podcast. So I heard the rumblings about the Acolyte maybe a year or so ago, and it seemed like a really interesting concept. So it's actually set before the Skywalker saga, 100 years before the Skywalker saga. So it's nice to get a breath of fresh air, something different, something new that doesn't revolve around the rebellion and the same type of saga. So this is actually 100 years before, which was super interesting. Just reading up about some of the concepts of it, I was super interested into getting into it. So without further ado, let's get right into it. Episode 1, titled Lost and Found. So, as I mentioned previously, it's 100 years before the rise of the Empire. They give you a nice little scroll to set the pace of the episode and set where we are and what we're doing. So, apparently, someone learned the Force in secret. So, if you've watched the full 2 episodes, you know who this is by the end of even the first episode. So I thought that this was an interesting concept because usually all of our Force users in Star Wars have somehow been trained by either a Jedi Master or a Sith Lord. So I'm not sure if secret was just meant Sith Lord or Sith until the end of the Star Wars bullshit ass movie when the kid's lifting the broom by himself. But we don't have to talk about that. So this was already starting off for me pretty interesting, just learning the Force in secret. I was interested. Let's see what happens here. So the first scene is a bar fight scene, which is actually probably my favorite scene from the first 2 episodes in general. So we get this assassin who is dressed in a mask and full cloak, walks into a bar looking for the Indara. That's her name, Indara, the Jedi Master. So we get this crazy fight where Indara doesn't really want to engage her until she beats up like 7 bar patrons. And I love the Star Wars bar scene. It's always just a bunch of random creatures drinking in like the weirdest ways and communicating in the weirdest ways. Just love that Star Wars lore. So right off the bat, we get the sense that this assassin is really trained well. She noticeably does not have a lightsaber or a red lightsaber, denotating that she's a Sith. That might not even be a word, but she fights with blades and just throws them pretty much. So we are watching this fight, and you realize quickly that she's really good at fighting. She's clearly been trained by somebody in this combat sort of thing, which is interesting because in Star Wars, a lot of our heroes and antagonists are either just people who shoot guns and kind of are shifty, but don't really have like this combat training, or they have a bunch of gadgets like the Mandalorian, or they have lightsabers like the Jedi. So it's interesting to be watching this kind of combat fighter, hand-to-hand combat fighter, go about in the Star Wars universe when we're used to seeing weapons mostly dominate. So as the fight progresses on, there's got to be some sort of history there because the assassin just walks in and basically is like, "Where is this woman?" Um, she. It's clear they have history, and I was wondering what the history was. It's clear there's something there, obviously, right off the bat, but further down the line, we find out that history sort of still have some questions, but we'll get into that later. So one thing I noticed about this assassin is she has infinite amount of blades. Like she takes them off her belt, hucks them. There just seems to be a million of them somehow, and the Jedi Master Indara is just like denying them, putting them to the ground, breaking them. So I don't know where this chick is getting her blade supply from, but she's got hella. Just I don't know. Maybe that's something to watch moving forward. Does she ever run out of blades? I don't know. So basically, the fight comes to a head once the bar basically clears out because there's a massive brawl happening with a Jedi and a trained assassin. So everyone leaves besides the barkeep, and he is just there looking at her, and she sees it. She knows that the Jedi have to save all the civilians and put the civilians' lives over their own. So she throws a blade at the barkeep, and the Jedi, of course, stops the blade with the Force. Banu, for those of you who know Survivor. Anyways, she stops the blade with her hand, and then we quickly pan back to her, who now has a blade in her chest. I guess this was the days before Force healing, and the Jedi were just bitches because this is a small ass blade. Maybe it's lethal. Maybe it's super extended. I don't know. Maybe I'm just again going off my little things review. Maybe I'm just overestimating death. I don't know. Maybe it's pretty easy to die, and I'm just like putting a lot of into death. But I thought that this was kind of a weak death. Maybe it was in the heart. I don't know. It's kind of in that upper chest region. So rest in peace, General Indara. She was played by a famous actress who I'm not going to pull the name of right now, but everyone was pissed off that she died like 5 minutes in with this fight and was cast for the scene. So she leaves the lightsaber, which I thought was interesting because I guess these trained assassins don't really like the lightsaber weapons or like using lightsabers, so she just leaves it there. I guess that's something to note moving forward, even though I'll get into that later, I guess. Okay. So she's left in the bar with the barkeep, who I'm just going to keep calling barkeep because that was what the subtitles called him, and his kid, or her kid, I don't know what gender the barkeep was. So basically this assassin has the decision to either spare the barkeep or just kill him. So she shows she's not totally evil. She spares the barkeep and her kid once she sees the kid and walks out. So that's kind of our first scene, getting right into it. Really was digging the aesthetics of this, loving this fight scene, loving this all. So moving on, we pick up with the same girl in a mechanic uniform and living on this ship with the people who look like the people who Anakin killed in Revenge of the Sith, like the Council or whatever. So actually, let me just put a disclaimer out there right now. I'm not a Star Wars nerd. I'm not a Star Wars geek. I don't know all these people's names. I just watch it and enjoy it. I'm a normal guy, okay? So don't correct me in the comments if you want, but don't be mean. I don't know much about the lore and shit. I don't know what these people are called. Maybe I don't know. I don't even want to venture a guess because you guys are gonna kill me if I get venture guess wrong. So she lives with these people on the ship. So we don't really know what's good with her. She has this little machine that everyone's obsessed with called Pip. That is just another one of these droids that's gonna sell a million toys, and we're just gonna have to be here for it. So her and her friend put out fires, and also try and fix the ship with any mechanisms that go wrong. So we see early on one of the shield generators has gone down, so she and her friend hook into the top of the ship, and they have to go and see what's going on with the top of the ship. And it turns out they screw something up, and there's a fire. And our girl does not like fire. She has a little moment of PTSD there. Something to note moving forward is this is kind of a big plot line in the first two episodes. So essentially, that's all we get there once. And then after that, this Jedi and his Padawan, which this guy's kind of a loser, but his Padawan is also just really ugly. Sorry. They pull up and they're like, we're going to arrest you because you match the description of the girl who was killed the Jedi Master, and there's a lot of evidence against you. So right here, this is kind of like a confusing part of the episode if you didn't really know. So basically spoilers for the rest of the episode, which if you're watching this podcast, you should already have watched the episode. But basically, I had seen a couple a year ago that there was about like twins, and one of them was good and one of them was bad. So I forgot that was a part of it because there's just so much other stuff happening and a lot of ramp up to this series that I completely forgot about that part. Doesn't really mention it in the trailer either. So we see that this seemingly normal girl who just a mechanic and just super nice with her little droid is also this doubling like assassin. She also interestingly mentions that she was not at the party they had last night. So I was like, maybe this is the girl. But then I remember that there's two girls, which we find out later. So basically, they're going to arrest her because she matches the description. She is the person they're looking for. We come to find out her whole village and her mother's died in a fire, which is horrible, and why she probably had the PTSD from the fire. So that's something to keep moving forward with also the other potential assassin girl. Well, it's May, but so they both have this PTSD from this fire thing. Seems like this is kind of the whole starting point of this whole thing that happened that has led to all this death and all this revenge and all this stuff within the community, and that one girl's looking for revenge for and the other girl has PTSD from. So essentially, classic Jedi, they just take her and they don't question her or anything. She's guilty before proven innocent. She's on this prison pod with really this funny escape crew, but we'll get into that in a second. So there's a scene here with this green-headed bitch who is like the typical clown-ass Jedi who's like, we gotta bring her in for politics, we gotta get this done swiftly and make sure that this is done in a right way so we can be perceived politically correct, which this is a classic Jedi bullshit of them wanting to be the politics and wanting to be everything right in society and putting themselves in this higher moral ground. So whatever. Yeah, so this escape crew, we got this crackhead guy who's like, let's get out of here, we're going to escape. She's in the separate cell, and there's also this shark guy who has probably one of the cooler like things that I've seen out of a Star Wars like random creature. Honestly, there's like a million of them, but they're going to escape, and the prisoner, the good version, wants nothing to do with this because she's like, I trust the Jedi, I trust that they'll get me out of this. She's a former Padawan, by the way. I did not mention that earlier. So basically, they have to, or this crew basically forces the escape. The shark does something sick. I'm just going to keep calling him the shark because I don't even know what he's supposed to be. He like puts his head down and something comes out and like rips the jail cell off. And there's also this guy with like he's got ears and eyes, like robot thing. He just hacks the droids that were driving them to the jail. Also, the shark like decapitates one of the droids. So respect to that crew, even though they get busted like immediately after and get questioned. So basically, there's this other guy in the other cell who has his mouth shut with some sort of like bacteria that makes your mouth close, I guess. So essentially, that whole crew gets out, and then she frees herself with her droid. They leave the guy with the mouth. She goes back and does the typical Jedi bullshit of having to save everyone and not getting out. So of course she saves him, and then he runs right out, takes the only escape pod, leaves her there by herself. So she just straps in and gets crashes on this random planet, is fine. Didn't look like too terrible of a fall. I'm not sure what the Star Wars gravity is or the gravity on this planet. I guess she's fine. She makes it out good. So, cutting back to our Jedi, we meet, or we've already met Sol, but he's a beast. He's like kind of this Qui-Gon-esque figure that is kind of wisdom and actually thinks things through and is actually like kind of emotionally attached, is actually a fucking real person and is in this Jedi bullshit politics, whatever. So him and his Padawan are going to go on this mission, and they have to take the other dickhead from earlier. His name starts with a J. I don't remember it. So they go down to go get him, and he doesn't have his fucking clothes on. He's not ready. He's like, "We're leaving in 5 minutes." Just clown, clown. So at the end of the episode, we find out that there's actually two versions of this girl, which, if you knew anything about this series, you probably already knew this. But when I re-remembered this, I was like, "Whoa." There's an evil one and there's a good one. So basically, the sister is already quote unquote dead, apparently dead. Apparently, we're not supposed to believe she's alive, even though we just saw her, or they don't believe she's alive, even though we just saw her. So they're looking for the good version on the ship where she crashed on that planet, and the bad Jedi that, well, not the worst Jedi, but the one I didn't like decently, pulls out a yellow lightsaber, which is sick. Respect for the yellow lightsaber. That brought me some brownie points with him. Yellow lightsabers are sick, besides Rey, but we don't even talk about that. So at the end of the episode, basically they find May. No, they don't find May. They find the good version of her, and they take her, and she's like, "I didn't do it," and the soul's like, "I believe you. It was May," because she has a vision of May running around, and yeah, so he's like, "I believe you because you're my former Padawan and you can't do no wrong." So basically, they take her in. He saves her from falling off a cliff. They're gonna question her, but not put handcuffs on her because Soul trusts her. So our last scene of the first episode is May going back to her, looks like master, and he's just chilling on a rock like a couple 100 feet away from her, and she's just like, they're just talking, but I don't really know how they're talking. This is obviously going to be the big reveal or the big questions that everyone asks is, who's this Sith guy? I don't think it really matters. Just love seeing the Sith, anyone, any guy. So basically, this guy looks really cool though. Classic Sith. He's got like the dark outfit on, and he's got this really killer line about like how Jedi's use their weapons, and they don't use their weapons because blah blah blah. But then he's like, "An acolyte kills the dream." So respect. That was a really cool quote for him. I'm interested to learn more about him. We don't learn more in episode 2, so still waiting to see more details about him. But he was one of my favorite parts of the first episode. Just this kind of mysterious guy. So, as usual with my TV reviews of episodes, I will give a favorite and least favorite character before I get into episode 2. So, my favorite character from episode 1, I think, is Soul. Just seems like a really chill, down-to-earth guy. He actually trusts his former Padawan and goes to get her. He is basically an actual, like, real guy, kind of like an Obi-Wan, Qui-Gon vibes. So he was my favorite character from episode 1. My least favorite was the green-headed Jedi bitch, because she's just typical Jedi, blah, 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 jargon. So, yeah. All right. Now let's move on to episode 2. We got Revenge/Justice is the title of this episode. So we start off with May going on to pursue another one of her missions to kill another Jedi. This time it is Master Torben, who is just chilling in meditation, just like 5 feet from the ground, just chilling. And she does all her blade bullshit. She's like, "Attack me at all your strength," blah, blah, blah. And he's just chilling. He does not give a fuck. He doesn't even open his eyes. So this is interesting to see that she can basically just be defensed against pretty easily unless there's like emotions attached. So yeah, I was wondering, why does she always say, "Attack me with all your strength"? Like, aren't Sith, don't they take advantage of your weaknesses? I guess they do still, but I don't know why she insists on someone attacking you with all your strength. Is it like an honor thing? Is it a code thing? I don't know. Seems like a weird kind of bit to keep going on. Maybe you guys can let me know in the comments what this is all about. Maybe it's an Acolyte thing. So I appreciate her freaking May's ability to just dip, like mad inconspicuously. We'll see even later on in this episode, but she can just disappear from a scene like poof, and she's gone. So respect to her for being able to leave no trail. So she also believes that um, her sister is dead too. So I'm not sure. I wonder if we're ever going to get the scene of what happened here where both of them believe the other one is dead. I mean, this isn't like a crazy, crazy thing, but it's just interesting that she thinks that her sister's dead and her sister thinks that she's dead. So I don't know. Yeah, this guy, Jared or whatever, it's not Jared, but if you watch the show, you know who I'm talking about. The guy with like, I didn't have his clothes on. He's just a bum. Again, as usual. So yeah, we go to May and she's in a bar with this guy, and she's like, "We need to do it this way, his way," which they never mention who the he is, but I'm assuming it's the Sith Lord that she's training under, and the one we saw at the end of episode 1. So I'm wondering, why does she need to do it his way? Why can't she just use a different method, try a different way, which she ends up doing, of course. But it seems to me that her master or trainer is the one who's insinuating that she needs to fight people at all their strength. Maybe there's some sort of weird honor code here, which is another leading thing into why I'm wondering about this guy and what his case is and what he is all about, because it seems like he has a really interesting mindset. So I'm interested to see what he's got going on. Basically, this bar guy is just like a connection if she needs something for to a fight or a way to get out, as we see later. I was wondering who he is and what his connection is, but I don't think it's that deep. I think he's just kind of there to be this fodder character for the bad side and this kind of connector between everything. So he supplies her with poison. He just puts like a root into a thing, and that's your poison. So cut back to Soul and his crew. He's talking with his former Padawan, and he is mentioning how he wasn't a good teacher to Osha, and shocker, Osha, whatever. This is like a classic. I was never a good enough master. This is just an old trope for Star Wars. So, guess we'll find out how Soul wasn't a good trainer or master or teacher to Osha. Something to watch moving forward. So we come to find out, well, Soul and his crew come to find out that this attack happened on the Jedi Temple, and it turns out that Master Torben has not spoken in 10 years, which, guess what, he talks in the next like 2 minutes. When we go back to May, she pulls up on him with the poison and is like, "Listen, you should die for what you did." And he's like, "Yeah, actually, I agree with you," and just takes the poison. I don't know. This seems like there's a lot to unpack here with what has happened with Osha May and this fire and these 4 Jedi that she's apparently going after. So I guess we'll just wait and see with that. Seems like they're building up to this scene, so I'm sure it'll be like a big reveal when it happens. So it seems like the Jedi have fucked up somehow. Again, to be seen what happens here. So it's actually the Padawan in this scenario of the 4 Jedi, or the 3 Jedi and the former Padawan Osha, who actually has a smart plan. Use this girl with the guy that they have at the bar, because you have a girl who looks exactly the same. They're twins. This should be like #1 priority. Use her in the whatever. Use her in this plan. So they actually end up going through with this. Turns out she just has the complete opposite personality of May, of course, but they're able to get this guy. And shocker, he's a rat. Just like every Star Wars character who's not a main character, they'll sell out for coin, they'll sell out to the Jedi, they'll sell out to the Empire. So we got a rat in our hands. So basically, this whole espionage thing, we get a classic. I have a bad feeling about this from my favorite Jedi, least favorite, well, second least favorite, behind ahead of the green head girl. But gotta get ripped the I have a bad feeling about this. They got it out early, so there it is. There's one for every Star Wars everything. So there's your I have a bad feeling about this. So she wants to kill 4 Jedi. She already got Andara and Torben, and she wants to kill Soul and also this Wookiee Jedi named Kalnaka. Might be the wrong name, sorry, but those are the four she wants to kill, get revenge for, has spite for. So we'll see how that ends up planning out. We end up meeting Kalnaka at the end of this, but we'll talk about that in a second. So we come to a confrontation between Sol and May, and they have history, of course. Both of them have history with each other. So May goes into her fight mode. She doesn't say attack me with all your strength this time. Maybe I just assume she thinks he is already. Sol actually kind of owns her. It's good to see that Sol's got that good combat too. He can fight her on feet. He doesn't even use his lightsaber. So good to see the Jedi are also taking up combat and can also do this if they need to, just fight hand to hand. So this is another cool scene of Sol and May fighting. Probably my second favorite scene. Just good fight scenes here all around for Acolyte. So applaud for them for that. Basically, Sol has her trapped. The Padawan's up in the whip in the ship, aimed at the spotlight, and of course, my girl looks down at the dust and just dusts them, which is a respectable smoke bomb. Good job using your resources. Good job using smoke bombs. Call of Duty, you know what you're doing if you use smoke bombs, or you're just being a loser. But anyways, so finally, our second to last scene is a scene where Osha and May actually see each other. So having believed that they are both dead, Osha has this kind of the stun gun, whatever, to put her out. We saw this in Ahsoka. I don't know what it's called, but she's got the stun gun aimed at her. May's on the bike, but May kind of stops on the bike when she sees her, and Osha's got the gun ready. They look at each other, and May, we actually see kind of in a positive mood, or actually has feelings. She's like Oshi, which no one has called her Oshi so far. So this moment led me to believe they still have love for each other. This is something to watch moving forward. Osha was not able to pull the trigger on her in the moment, and she gets away. And May, I'm sure, could have thrown a blade or something at her, but she didn't. So they still got love for each other. There's still a deep connection there. Obviously, they're twin sisters. So that's going to be a complicated relationship as we navigate throughout this series. And our last scene, leaving off on episode 2, is us meeting Kalnaka, this Wookiee Jedi who's living on this forest planet. We follow these two kind of scavengers who find his ship, and they're like, we can scrap this for parts. We can get going here. He just cops their gun and just breaks it in half over his knee. He's a strong boy, or girl. I don't know which one he is or which one they are. Sorry. Basically, he's been living on a crashed ship. It seems like he's got this like banner over his thing, so I'm sure he's a very interesting character. It's good to see another Wookiee. So we'll see what his case is. I'm assuming next week. So that leaves off the Acolyte here, episode 1 and 2. A pretty fun watch, pretty easy watch. First episode was like 45 minutes. Second episode was about around 35-ish, I think. So not a terrible watch. They left you that decent watching time, and really appreciated the fight scenes. Leaves me intrigued and to see where we go next. Hoping to bring on a friend to talk about a couple Acolyte episodes later on. But if you guys want to talk about the Acolyte with me, I'll be usually filming these 1 or 2 days after the show airs. So yeah, excited to see what the Acolyte has in store next week, next Tuesday. Loving the series so far. So what did you guys think? Let me know down below. Did you agree, disagree? Oh, I forgot to mention my favorite 2 characters, or least favorite characters from episode 2. So favorite from episode 2, I'm gonna go with May. She's got a lot going on. She's got this interesting backstory. Is able to actually kill Torben, just basically by making him eat poison. She's shifty. She's got the move, so I'll give it to May. Favorite, and then least favorite, I want to say the green-headed girl again, but she had like one scene, so I won't give it to her. I'll say least favorite was Jarok or Jarod, whatever his name is. Just he doesn't trust Osha still. He's being cringy. So I'm gonna give it to him. He probably deserved it from episode 1, but he didn't get it, so I'm giving it to him here in episode 2. So that's gonna do it all for today, guys, on the Acolyte. Appreciate the viewership, the love you guys have been showing on the likes and 5-star ratings on Spotify. It's everywhere. If you only watch on one platform, just be aware it's on everywhere you get your podcast. So coming up, hoping to tomorrow have a little finals and Stanley Cup preview for you guys. And then over the weekend, we'll see about movies, but I'm still checking along with Succession. So episodes 6 through 10 of Succession should be coming soon. And yeah, have a good one, and Acolyte.